The rain had stopped just an hour ago, but the air still smelled like something broken and beginning again. Emma Hayes sat in her car outside the little café, staring at her reflection in the rearview mirror. She smoothed her hair for the third time, though it didn't matter. Her heart wasn't ready. It hadn't been for a long time. After a 2-year silence following her last heartbreak, she'd finally agreed to go on a blind date. Her best friend had called it a step forward. Emma called it a mistake waiting to happen. Still, she was here. A part of her was tired of eating dinner alone, tired of pretending she didn't care. Maybe tonight would be different. Maybe. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the small miracles that change everything, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, because sometimes the most beautiful stories begin when everything seems to go wrong. The cafe was warm and bright, filled with the hum of soft music and the comforting chatter of strangers. Emma walked in, her red dress brushing lightly against her knees. Her friend had told her that the man she was meeting, Daniel Brooks, was a single father. She hadn't minded that. In fact, something about that made him seem real. Solid, not like the smooth talkers she'd met before. Still, her heart raced as she scanned the tables until she saw him, sitting by the window, tall, handsome in a quiet, unpolished way, wearing a white shirt, and the kind of nervous smile that made her think he didn't do this often either. "Emma?" he said, standing up. His voice was gentle but carried a hint of hesitation, like he was used to being careful with his words. She nodded, forcing a polite smile. They shook hands, and then, as they sat down, silence stretched awkwardly between them. The waitress came by, and they ordered iced tea, neither of them brave enough for wine this early in the evening. For the next 20 minutes, the conversation stumbled. He was polite, but distant. She was. Trying too hard to fill the gaps. Every time she asked something, his answers were short, sometimes even distracted. He glanced at his phone once, twice, and she felt her stomach sink. Another one of those dates. Emma told herself to breathe, to stay calm. Maybe he was nervous. Maybe she was overthinking. But as the minutes passed, the warmth of the cafe began to fade. She sipped her tea and smiled at nothing in particular, her mind whispering, "Why did I come here?" It wasn't that Daniel was rude. Not at all. He just seemed preoccupied, like his heart was somewhere else entirely. He mentioned his daughter once, briefly. "She's 5, he said, with a flicker of pride. "Her name's Lily." Then he changed the subject, almost abruptly, as if saying her name opened a part of him he didn't want to share. Emma smiled softly. "She sounds lovely," she said, but he didn't look up. The conversation trailed off, and Emma looked out the window, her heart quietly folding into itself. She thought of her last relationship, the one that had ended with a message that simply said, "I'm not ready for this." She'd told herself she'd moved on, that she didn't need anyone to make her happy. But sitting here, across from someone who couldn't even look her in the eyes, she wondered if she was the problem. After half an hour of awkward exchanges, Daniel checked his watch. "I'm really sorry," he said softly. "My babysitter just texted. She needs to leave early." "Oh," Emma replied, forcing a smile. "Of course, you should go." He nodded, clearly embarrassed. "It's not you. I didn't plan this well. I'm sorry." "It's fine," she said, though her voice cracked slightly. "Go take care of your little girl." He thanked her and left a generous tip on the table before walking out. Emma sat there for a few moments, staring at the empty chair in front of her. Then she laughed under her breath, not because it was funny, but because it hurt less than crying. She gathered her purse, ready to leave, when she heard a tiny voice at the door. "Daddy! Daddy, wait!" Emma turned. A small girl with golden curls came running inside, her yellow dress fluttering behind her like sunshine caught in motion. She clutched a folded paper in her hand and stopped right in front of Daniel, panting. "Lily?" Daniel knelt down, surprised. "What are you doing here?" "I told you to stay with Mrs. Carter until I came back. I made a picture," the little girl said, holding up the paper. "I wanted to show it to you now." Daniel smiled softly. "Sweetheart, I'll look at it when we get home, okay?" But Lily wasn't listening. She turned, and her bright blue eyes landed on Emma. Her face lit up with a wonder that made the whole cafe seem to pause. "Daddy," she gasped. "It's her." Emma blinked, confused. "Me?" Daniel frowned. "Lily, honey, what do you mean?" Lily ran up to Emma's table, the drawing still in her small hands. "You're the one from Daddy's story," she said, eyes wide with excitement. "The one he tells me before bed. The lady in the red dress who helps the sad man smile again." The cafe went silent. Daniel froze, his face turning pale. Emma stared at the little girl, then at Daniel, unsure what to say. Lily proudly unfolded the paper and handed it to Emma. It was a child's drawing, messy, colorful, beautiful. A man with brown hair sitting at a table, a woman in a red dress beside him, and a big red heart between them. Emma's throat tightened. Daniel looked utterly mortified. "Lily, that's just a story," he stammered. "It's not—" But Lily shook her head with the certainty only a child could have. "You said she was real, Daddy. You said maybe one day you'd meet her." Emma felt her heart ache in her chest. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck, avoiding her eyes. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "It's a story I made up for her. About hope. About finding someone kind again." Emma looked down at the drawing again, then at the man who couldn't meet her gaze. Something inside her shifted. A soft understanding that maybe this wasn't a disaster after all. Maybe this was what broken people looked like when they tried to love again. Lily climbed onto the seat beside her. "You look just like her," she whispered. "The lady who made Daddy happy." Emma smiled gently, blinking away tears. "That's very sweet, Lily." Daniel started to apologize again, but Emma stopped him. "It's okay," she said. "Really, it's beautiful, actually." He looked at her then, really looked at her. And in that moment, she saw the exhaustion in his eyes, the years of doing everything alone, of loving fiercely and fearing loss even more. They stayed there for a while, talking softly while Lily showed her more drawings, all stories Daniel had told her at night, stories about courage, kindness, and the possibility of love after pain. It turned out his wife had passed away 3 years ago. Since then, he'd focused on raising his daughter, shutting the world out, telling bedtime stories to remind her, and himself, that love wasn't gone forever. Emma listened quietly, tears glistening in her eyes. She shared her own stories too, about losing faith in people, about trying to start over. They spoke not like strangers, but like two souls who had been standing at the same crossroads without knowing it. The hours slipped by unnoticed. The sun dipped lower, casting golden light through the window, turning everything warm and dreamlike. For the first time that night, Daniel laughed. A real laugh, unguarded and bright. Lily giggled too, and Emma couldn't help but join them. When the evening finally ended, Daniel offered to walk her to her car. Lily held Emma's hand the whole way, her small fingers curling around hers as if they belonged there. "Will you come again?" Lily asked when they reached the car. "So Daddy can tell me more stories?" Daniel smiled nervously. "Lily." Emma crouched down to meet the little girl's eyes. "If your dad wants me to," she said softly, "then yes. I'd like that." Lily clapped her hands, delighted. "See, Daddy? I told you stories can come true." Daniel looked at Emma, and she saw it in his eyes, the same quiet hope that had been hiding behind all his guarded words. He nodded, smiling faintly. "Yeah," he said. "Sometimes they do." That night, Emma sat in her car for a long time before starting the engine. The rain had returned, soft and rhythmic, tapping gently against the windshield. She thought about how close she'd been to leaving that cafe angry, about how one small girl had changed everything. Sometimes, the universe doesn't send grand miracles. Sometimes, it sends a child with a crayon drawing and a heart full of belief. In the days that followed, Daniel texted her. At first, short messages, polite, careful, then longer ones, warmer. They met again and again after that. With each meeting, the silence between them grew smaller, replaced by laughter, trust, and the quiet magic of something healing. A few months later, Emma found herself sitting on Daniel's porch, Lily curled up beside her, drawing hearts on the edge of her notebook. Daniel came out with 2 mugs of coffee, and as he handed her one, their fingers brushed. It wasn't dramatic or cinematic. It was simple, real, the kind of moment people overlook, but the kind that changes everything. Lily looked up at them with a sleepy smile. "I told you, Daddy," she said softly. "You found her." Daniel wrapped an arm around his daughter, then met Emma's eyes. "Yeah," he whispered, "we did. If this story touched your heart, if you believe love can find its way even through pain, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Because stories like this remind us that even after loss, life has a way of painting new beginnings. Special request, comment below. Do you believe in second chances, or do you think love only happens once? As the night settled around them, the sound of Lily's soft laughter mingled with the rustle of the trees. Emma leaned back, her heart no longer afraid. She realized that sometimes life's greatest stories aren't written in words but in moments, a child's drawing, a shared smile, and the simple courage to try again. And in that quiet, perfect moment, Emma knew this wasn't the end of a blind date gone wrong. It was the beginning of the story Daniel had been telling all